Okay, so now the video is recorded. I will share it on our YouTube channel. So uh, it's okay for if you want to view it again. Welcome to the AI Agent meetup. It's a meetup for people curious about AI. The goal is to demystify some AI concept, AI agent particularly, and we want to discover tools and tech trends around it. Today we have the amazing opportunity to have Steven. I made a previous podcast with Steven around XP practices and how to embrace it and learning hours. And today, Steven will share with us how we can apply software craftsmanship principle with coding agent. So, Steven, just before start, if you, I mute all the mic for all attendees. So, if you have some question, don't hesitate to ask it in the chat. I hope we will answer for all questions. But anyway, after the video, I will try to answer you. Even if we don't have enough time. So, Steven, the place is yours. Thanks to be with us. Ah, okay, the mic. So, I mute Steven. It's okay now?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks,
It's
Buzz.
better.
All right. And now I need to be able to share my screen.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I did put a little poll out. Just want to kind of see kind of just kind of where everybody's at. I mean, I'm assuming kind of a mixed crowd. Some people have used coding agents, maybe some have not used it at all. So just put in the chat like a 2, 1, or 0. 0 being that you've never really used a coding agent for like anything really, a side project or like work related production code.
Just,
Yeah,
do you share your screen now? Or
yeah, I should be able to. Yeah, I'm gonna share it now. I
okay.
want to take a look at this poll here.
Um,
Yeah, kind of across the board. Some seem to be using it every day at work and all that. Okay, cool. So kind of mixed. Okay.
okay. Thanks, Steven. Maybe you have shared only your screen, but for the recorded video, we'll view it only what you share. So if you want to share the entire screen, we'll see the entire screen. But if you share only the presentation, we'll see only the presentation. Just
Okay, let me check real quick and make sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, did what I want to do
okay.
there.
Nice. We see
Let's,
the dragon.
yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about coding agents today and how I am mixing my experience with software craftsmanship and extreme programming um, to make coding agents more effective, get more out of them. And I've been coding with them since April, and I've been not just on side projects, but also doing this like every day, making mistakes and learning, and the models are getting better and all these things. It's very exciting. Um, I've been having a lot of fun doing it. It's a totally different way of coding. And I just kind of want to share my experiences and my workflow. And this is not to say that you should do it the way I do it, but it's more to inspire you on what is possible with these. And the way I use it may not be necessarily the way you use it. So a few years ago, for me, it was 2022, ChatGPT came out, and then people started using like GitHub Copilot. So we had autocomplete. I actually didn't really do much of that. I'm a IntelliJ user, and I was kind of happy with that autocomplete. I didn't need uh, AI to guess what I was going to write because most of the time I was wrong back then. So I didn't do much of that. Um, and then we got to kind of like the coding assistants. We had ChatGPT or maybe Claude Desktop or Gemini, or maybe some other models. And we would kind of interact through the chat and then like copy paste code. And like for me, it was like writing like one-off scripts and just it was kind of like replace Stack Overflow for kind of looking up syntax and things like that. And now we have coding agents. So 2025 is kind of the year of the coding agent. Um, in February, Claude Code was released, and that was kind of like one of the big ones. That Cursor, Windsurf, and we'll get more into that. But yeah, it's kind of a whole new world, and yeah. So this talk is primarily for software engineers. If you've ever heard of the term vibe coding, or term being thrown around now that people outside of software engineering are able to build apps, which is amazing. But this talk is specifically geared towards software engineers that want to use coding agents like full time to create production code in their day-to-day work. And so maybe you've never used it. This talk for you. Maybe you're just kind of playing around with it on the side. This talk was for you because I wanna see how I can get you from just doing it on the side. Maybe of course we have, restrictions at some workplaces and stuff, but the more and more we can get comfortable doing this in a production-like way and practice that way, we'll be able to um, shift from that kind of vibe coding to the vibe engineering, so to speak. So yeah, and then some people I've been working with teams recently, and they've been using coding agents for months, and they're really not seeing the value. They're really not able to get it to do what they want. And so that is for you as well. And if you're using agents successfully, just want to hear how I'm doing it, welcome.
Just a little view on the poll. You have some
Yeah.
people that use coding agent almost every day at work. So
Uh-huh. Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, and maybe like throughout this, if you think of any, I'd love to hear like the struggles maybe you're having with coding agents or some experiences that you've had, um, negative or positive. And yeah, we're gonna save some time at the end. I want to have a open discussion, ask questions, just kind of talk about things. So I have one big question that I want to focus on for this workshop here, and that it's how can we partner, like not just use coding agents as a tool, like how can we actually like pair program or like come aside the coding agent and like actually go back and forth, not just treat it like a vending machine, but really partner with the coding agent to deliver high quality production code at a sustainable pace. So we like I don't want to use coding agents if I can't get it to produce code that I would be happy shipping myself. And I also don't want to use it if over time my project starts to um, get so complex and complicated that I can't understand the code anymore. Coding agent can't understand the code anymore. So how can we achieve that? So a few caveats here. Most of the production code that I'm talking about was TypeScript. It's probably more than 90%. Been doing a lot of back end in Node and front end with React. And yeah, so why I say that is coding agents work pretty well with TypeScript. There's a lot of examples out there, and you just got to think like if there's a lot of examples out in open source and things like that, it's going to be more well trained on like React framework and Node or anything like that, or TypeScript syntax. So like as opposed to maybe like Rust or I mean even Java, there's not as much like public code maybe. So Also a lot of the projects that I'm in doing for the clients that I'm on, they're mostly greenfield. I've been developing AI capabilities into companies' products, and a lot of that is kind of brand new work, so not legacy code or anything like that. So you may find it a little bit harder to do some of the things I'm doing in a more brownfield project. So just wanted to throw that out there. I've mostly been using Claude Code. Um, I used Cursor a little bit in the beginning, and I recently tried it again with Cursor 2.0. I used a little windsurf, but any of the techniques I'm talking about, it's not just Cloud Code. Cloud Code does have some specific things, but I'm not really going to talk about those. Any of the things I'm going to talk about really apply to everything. So I just encourage you to, if you haven't, you know, try it out, like get a coding agent and see what you can do with it. And this is, again, this is just me sharing. Find your own way. But I just hope this serves as inspiration for you. So I just want to talk a little bit about my journey. I started in extreme programming in 2018. A couple of years after that was kind of like my first talk. I talked a lot about testing. I would give workshops on TDD. And back then, I really didn't even understand TDD all that well, but I loved that teaching was a great form of learning, and I've been doing it ever since. And since 2023, I've been coaching teams in technical practices and refactoring, TDD, continuous integration, all those kind of things. And February of this year, I was actually kind of sick of hearing about AI. I don't know if anybody else relates to that. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I just kind of saw it everywhere, and I was like, just kind of over it. And then a month later, I saw a coding agent for the first time, and it didn't stand out to me that much, but it was pretty cool. And then a month after that, I started as an AI consultant and was on these teams that were could use these coding agents, and totally blew my mind. So that was Cursor, and then I installed Claude Code, and that was just amazing. And it was a great teacher. I was doing a lot of things that like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was building RAG pipelines. I was building LLM chatbots, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do those things as quickly and get up to speed on those technologies if I didn't have a coding agent. Um, and yeah, and then over the last few months, I've really been trying to hone my process. And one thing I found that I was doing a lot of test after development. I was getting the thing to work and then backfilling it with test. But I finally really tried to see how I can work test-driven development into my workflow. Try to work in smaller batches. All these things that as extreme programmers, we learn that it's effective to do, and that's kind of what I've been doing my whole career. And yeah, and last month was a huge month for me. We had a big push where we had to um, deliver all this functionality for a conference, and this new workflow just really accelerated everything for me. So before I get into like my workflow, I kind of want to talk about some of the things that I see people that have using coding agents for the first time. I mean, not to say like, I mean, you're probably going to make these mistakes anyways, but I just kind of want to talk about them. Um, so in the springtime, when I joined the consultancy I work for, they had a hackathon, and I was working with a lot of people that hadn't really used coding agents. I had only been using it for about 3 weeks. But one thing that I saw was everybody just wanted to take the PRD, the product requirements document. They wanted to take that and they just wanted to one-shot it. Like it was a huge document of all these capabilities. And they just wanted to like, they're just like really, they just, it's like we want to test it. Like, right? Can it do it all? And like it it can't. It's gonna fail because it's just way too much. And we'll get into like context window and like why that is. But like, I mean, to work with these effectively, you really have to decompose the problems, have small tasks, and focus things like that. Now, if you want to go and open up ChatGPT, I'm not saying do it now, but like if you want to do like an Angry Bird clone or something or Flappy Bird, it probably can one-shot it because it knows about it, right? But when you're doing something new or you're engineering, you're not going to see much success out of it. Yeah, so the context window is very important. Um, yeah, these coding agents, when they get about 50% of like their context window filled up, it's measured in tokens, which is you could say kind of like a one token is like 4 characters, maybe like a short word. But like some coding agents have about 200,000 tokens. So what I've seen is when it gets about 100,000, about the halfway mark, it starts hallucinating more, starts getting lost. It doesn't remember things you said a long time ago. And yeah, so if you're able to like break down tasks into smaller chunks, then you won't face that issue as much. Um, Another thing I see is that people just kind of use it right out of the box and just go, which I mean that's how I started using it too, like for sure. But uh, I wouldn't just like give up because you didn't see good results out of using it. You have to kind of give it guidelines, give it rules, and kind of try to work the way you develop, work it into the coding agent, give it kind of like how you would like it to do software engineering for you and with you. Um, and another thing I've seen, I saw this on a client I was working with a couple weeks ago, and he told me he was giving a lot of context, and a lot of the context was not the what and the why, but a lot of it was the how. And it was like he was basically trying to tell it how he would do it, and um, and I haven't really had much success with that. I think telling it the what and the how, kind of the end goal and the outcome, I think you'll find that's better, and then you can start working with it and discovering the how as you work with it. And another common failure mode is just not really putting enough details into the prompts. I think the first prompt that you send should have the most details, kind of really lay out the foundation of like what you're trying to get done in this session. And yeah, missing those important details, that's not a failure on the agent, that's a failure on the user. Um, and part of that is kind of asking the agent, right? Do you have enough details to work on this? So we'll get into that as well. All right.
Just Steven, we have a question of Aya. I
Yeah,
think
great.
is linked to what you have said.
Yeah, yeah.
I want it's Aya. I want to say we are moving from prompt engineering to context engineering. We have an article link. I wonder if you could give us some tips on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll see that as I start working. I'm gonna be developing an app today. You'll be seeing me work with a coding agent. So um I'll answer it then and we can get back into that and kind of dive into some techniques.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, it's okay.
Okay. But yeah, definitely keep the questions coming, but some of it I might just delay until later because definitely gonna get to it. It's easier to see it. Um, and that's why I want to show how I'm working with this. So I kind of want to just like analyze some of my like old habits of being an extreme programmer and kind of like pairing every day, doing TDD, small batches, things like that, and the way I worked and like how that's shifted to a new way of working and how some of those habits are still with me because they still work in this new world. So one is task management. So whenever I pick up a user story, I will always create like a markdown file and like a task list. And I'll just kind of, with my pair, kind of dump my brain and their brain and just figure out like, what are we doing? Like, how can we like break this up into little slices and kind of iterate on this? And sometimes that's in form of a test list as well. And I'm always thinking about like the behaviors, the outcomes, and what the user can get done and what problem we're solving, things like that. And so I still do a lot of that. I still do task lists with my pair, and I still pair I pair program with somebody, and we're both using coding agents. Like so that's an interesting thing to get into as well. If you want to talk about that in the Q&A. Um, but yeah, nowadays I find myself these task lists kind of are a bunch of like planning docs, and they're like a plan and some like wireframes. But what I still focus on is the behavior and outcomes and focusing on the what and the why. Yeah, so I've been pair programming like my whole career. I love it. I think it's a great way um, to share knowledge, to collaborate. It's also just like fun. It's kind of like boring just working all by yourself. So yeah, so I think it's given me pretty big edge actually because the way I have to communicate with another person, I have to get the ideas out of my head and communicate them to somebody else. I've been doing that for years, and now we're doing that with coding agents. And so I've definitely seen that strong style pairing, which is all about communicating intent, because the navigator is telling the typist like what to do, but like not like how to do it, but like what is the goal we want to achieve. And that's kind of like what the coding agent is. It's the typist. And it's your job as a navigator to kind of steer it, course correct it, things like that. And and yeah, so design evolution. Um, just refactoring and kind of pausing to say like, okay, is the code, is this maintainable code? Like, what's this going to look like in months? Like, always thinking about that and how we can have a good design, which in my mind, a good design means that it's easy to add the next change, right? Simple as that. So just always trying to refactor. So now with my coding agent, I'm kind of reviewing its code and little tiny cycles and and kind of giving it suggestions, asking it for suggestions, and just kind of collaborating like that. And commits. So I have over the years tried to get better and better about like small commits and like I hear about micro commits and like I've had like stretches where I was like really good with that and found a lot of benefit out of it. But sometimes I was less disciplined. But now I'm actually like super disciplined with it because right after the code is working, I've went through a tiny task with the coding agent and the code's working. I want to commit that right away because I mean agents will create messes and like I want to get that checkpoint. I want to save that in so that I can roll back if anything bad ends up happening. So I feel like that's been a great habit to enforce with this new way of working. Um, so yeah, it's just learning and experimentation. So I worked with when I first started using coding agents. I was pairing with this guy on a client, and he was just all about just just trying new things and with the coding agent, and he was always reading a bunch and learning. And I mean, I've always been huge into that too, and it was so inspiring to see him like try all these new things. And just like if you find yourself in a workflow with a coding agent that you like, I would challenge you to try to kind of see if it can maybe even be better or like see what the weaknesses are in it. I think we can get complacent and just always keep learning and experimenting. And another thing I've observed is that it's really easy to just kind of get a lot of ideas, right? If when I'm pairing with somebody, I'm like, oh, let me do this or this, or just with the coding agent, I'm like, hey, give me a few options, and maybe we try them all because it's now cheaper to for it to build it. It can build all these three options, and I can kind of choose which one I like the most. So I think there's a lot of that kind of like spikes that is popular in extreme programming. The problem I always saw with spikes was that people would get too attached to the code and they didn't really want to throw it away. But I find it a lot easier to throw away the code now because I didn't really have to take hours writing it. All right, I'm gonna pause here, maybe look at the chat. What's that?
I ask if you will share the actual presentation. I don't think so. Maybe only the video on YouTube. I think it's enough.
Yeah, so I might have the slides maybe next month, but I don't have them at this point. But I'll share them when they become available. Okay, so all right, we're gonna get into building an app now, and it's a stock tracker app. I actually built this app or like a version of it um, before I ever became a programmer. I was just learning Java on my own, and I built this app and called Diamante Investments. So what we're going to build today is Diamante Investments version 2. Um, and so we're able to search for stocks and add stocks to our watch list and view charts. So we might not get like super far into it, but the point is not really building the app. The point is just working with the agent, kind of seeing what it does, and also talking about like why did I prompt it in this way and that way. So I want you to, as I'm going through it, raise your hand. Nicholas is gonna interrupt um, and call on you, and I want this to be interactive. Okay, so this is the old app. This is a Java Swing desktop application, and yeah, it's a lot of bugs. I actually was using this for legacy code practice because it's a perfect playground to learn legacy code. As like no test, it's like duplication all over the place, just really bad programming practices because I had no idea what I was doing back then. I just wanted to get an app working, and it kind of worked. So yeah, so this is a kind of a prototype. This doesn't necessarily have to be what the app looks like today, but I mean the idea is you search for some stocks, you can add them to watch list, and then click into them and see some more details and see some charts. Okay, so I have a little like workflow that I want to go through, like kind of taming the dragon. Because I'm showing all these dragons, haven't really talked about that like I view like coding agents as dragons. I feel like that they could be very wild and reckless. Um, there's a lot of stories about them like deleting databases and they could just delete your whole hard drive. And there's all these things. They're very powerful, and um, we need to be able to harness that power and channel it in an effective way. So we want to be able to tame and train our agentic dragon. Okay, so let's look at some ground rules. So ground rules are your Claude MD. Oh, let me go to the slide here. Yeah, so like Claude MD, that's for Claude Code. For a lot of the other ones have like an agents MD. Basically, this is just like rules and guidelines so that you don't end up like repeating yourself every chat, and you kind of much like ChatGPT has like the instructions that you can add. It's kind of like that, but for your coding agent. And I think of it as like a working agreement with your agent. And one thing you can do if you don't really know where to start, you can just ask your agent, hey, ask me a bunch of questions about um, our communication style or the coding standards that we like to have here. And it'll kind of interview you, and you can create some rules out of that. And so this is a cycle. So I think like as you're working and once you go through the planning process and managing the context window and doing some TDD to add a new feature and reviewing, when you come back, I think you should be looking at your ground rules. Is there anything that in this cycle that could be improved with my agent? So I think just a mindset of continuous improvement and always trying to tinker with those ground rules and see what works for you. So this is what I have set up right now. I have I have my own user like ground rules and guidelines here. And so this is any Claude session I start on any project, this will get loaded into the context. So you'll get the system prompt that Anthropic and the LLM providers, whichever what model you're using, they have the system prompt. Then that's like a big thing that kind of tells it what to do. And then you have this user prompt. And so I just have some things about being proactive and let me know. I got, and a lot of these I got from other people. I don't know if Lotta Kessler's on the call, but shout out to her on this one and a few others of these. Yeah, like to be concise. So a lot of this is just about communication style. And you'll see, I don't really even have that much. I've seen people with like hundreds, 500 line Claude MDs and Asian MDs. So I found that this works for me. This is kind of the minimum that I'm happy with. One guideline that I've heard is try to keep it under 100 lines. Because what you're doing is when you have this loaded in, it's going to take up part of your context, right? So let's actually start up Claude here. And so when I start up for the first time, I can check what is my context. So, and this is a good thing to do to see on a fresh session how many tokens am I already using. And so I'm using 76,000. A lot of that is because I have this playwright MCP right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off. I'll be turning it back on later. But really important, I'm yeah, so these MCPs, these kind of like tools for your agents, they take up a lot of context. So I'm gonna just exit, start a new session out. So we saw it was 76,000. Let's check again. All right, so 62,000, still quite a bit. It's almost 30%. And I've been trying to figure out how I can start with less, but Yeah, because like I said, once I get around 120,000 here, I'm usually trying to end my session pretty quick after that. But that's a good activity for you to do on your own. Okay, so we looked at the user ground rules. Let's look at the project ground rules. So when I'm working a specific project, I might have some even more specific things about that. It might be the what the project's about, maybe some coding standards that kind of differ from other projects. Really, it could be whatever you want. For this, I kind of tell it coding standards because I have some limiting rules that I would like it to proactively follow. We'll see if it actually does that today. Um, and and then I'll talk about this a little bit later as well. Um, yeah, so this only gets loaded when I'm working in this specific project.
Just we have a question from Stephen,
Yeah.
sorry. Is this your root cloud.md or project cloud.md?
Um, yeah, let me show it again. This is in the Diamante investments. This is my project Claude MD. It is, well, I'm not even sure if it's in the right file. I'm pretty sure it should be right here. Maybe it's fine. But yeah, usually it's a dot Claude and then Claude MD. So yeah, I think it's been following this pretty well. So yeah, so this is on the project and this other one, um, I'll actually share this at the end. This is a repo of all my commands. Yeah, mostly the most useful things are commands. I used to have a bunch of agents in here. I've been kind of getting rid of them. I don't really use them that much. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to get in the planning phase now. So when you're doing a big task that's like when it's a little bit bigger than just I don't know centering a div or something small like that. Like you wanna plan with the agent and talk out like what you're gonna do. Like don't let it wants to write code for you. It wants to please you. It wants to just start right away. It's very eager, but you gotta say, all right, let's slow down. So this is all about slowing it down and trying to figure out what are we actually doing here? Let's talk about it before we actually code. So usually the way I like to start this process is maybe I already have some user stories with some like scenarios, some acceptance criteria. That's great. If I don't, I want to kind of create those, and those will nicely translate into tests when I get to the TDD phase. And I also just want to like kind of talk with the agent about like, why are we doing this? What problems is this solving? Things like that, right? And what's the business value here? And provide it some API documentation, stuff like that. So let's pull up the agent, start going. All right, so I'm gonna clear my context here. So I'm clearing the conversation history, starting totally fresh here. And let's actually look at the code real quick. So I've already done the first part here. What I have is I have a PRD. We're not going to look through the whole thing, but it's generally talking about the purpose, what problem does the product solve, and then it gets into the different epics. Like I want to be able to search stocks by ticker symbol so that I can quickly find specific companies. So we're going to be starting on epic one, and so out of that PRD, I got Claude to generate this. I worked with it. I reviewed it. I had it make some changes. So I didn't want to go through all that process here, but just want to let you know that I did some prior work to kind of set this up with Claude. So I'm going to point it to story 1.1 here. And I also want to point it to this API. Um, so one struggle that a lot of people have is, fine, yeah, I can make like some toy app or some CLI, but when it comes to actually like integrating with APIs or setting up databases and stuff, like trying to get it um, to like understand the integration and the endpoints that it needs. So what I did with this is I told it, hey, here's the site with all the API docs, and here's the PRD. I want you to find all of the APIs that make sense for this app. And then I went through it and made sure it kind of made sense. And that's what I have here. So also not going to go through the whole thing here, but basically it's just breaking down endpoints and kind of what you would need. So with those, that's the kind of context that I'm going to give it in this chat. Okay, so to start with, and I usually type things out. I could definitely dictate this too, but so I'm going to say start with Epic 1 and let's do story 1.1 and use, so whenever I'm adding context, I'm using at. A lot of these coding agents, you can just do at and you can bring in a file. So I just have to know what the files are called. And so I have this API endpoints. Okay, and so I could say use that and to say ask me any clarifying questions. Okay, and I'm gonna put on thinking mode too. And and so I just push tab here and it has this thinking mode, and I feel that, yeah, I don't do it all the time, but especially when I'm starting up, I want it to kind of be aware of like to just think harder, because one thing that it does is that it will kind of, yeah, let me show the thinking. Okay, good. This is a React TypeScript Lite project. It's basically empty. Yeah, it only has a hello world. Yeah, let me ask some clarifying questions. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to answer its questions. It's kind of like interview mode. Um, let's just do plain CSS. Let's just keep it simple. And okay, direct, yes. Yeah, just direct. Yeah, usually you would want to not expose tokens on the network and all that. But for this demo, I'm just doing front end only. Just gonna do it in React, and we're not gonna have a back end. Should I use React Query? Keep it simple. Just keep it simple. That's fine. And live search as you type or enter. Let's just search on submit. That just seems simpler to me. And yeah, so definitely when I'm starting something new, I want to kind of go for the simple, like the kind of easiest functionality I can do starting up, and I can always iterate further. Um, yep, that's good. And unit test, acceptance test using MSW, our preferred. And yeah, so that's kind of like my style is to have like acceptance test and to stub with a mock web server, because instead of having it, okay. And one thing I didn't do is I didn't go into plan mode. So I'm gonna say make a plan. So what I just did here is I did Shift Tab, and that's just cycling these different things. So most of the time I start with just kind of bypassing permissions, and it'll just kind of go really fast. But plan mode is the way I slow it down. So I'm gonna tell it to make a plan. Okay. see. So I provided it the document, the documentation. There aren't really existing code patterns here, but any of that stuff that you can provide it will be very helpful. I told it to ask me questions, and so we were like designing together. Um, I think next I'll ask it to give me some wireframes. Like, what is this going to look like? And a cheap way to see that is to get it to really get it using ASCII art and things like that. So it's a really cheap way to just to see how the UI might look, and also like telling it to give me options. So I'm gonna use a combination of these two, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so it's giving me a big plan here. Okay, and it's very important to like read through this plan. Um, if you take the time to really solidify your decisions here, you're gonna see better results in the end. Um, so I know that these are useful. I don't really know what get profile does, so I'm definitely gonna ask about that because I'm not sure what that's providing us. So I want to make sure that it's not putting in things that are unnecessary. Okay, so it's going to do a submit button. Okay, I'm gonna show no results. Okay, it's going to do all this stuff. And at this point, you see, I haven't even told it about TDD. I have this command that I'm going to issue it eventually, but we're going to continue to plan. So what is profile to endpoint? All right, so yeah, this is where we're reading every line. There's definitely something wrong in the plan that it gives you, and it's your job as a software engineer to go find it and make it better. Don't just have it do your work for you, but collaborate with the agent, trying to figure out if this is the best path forward. And yeah, and like planning mode and things like that. So if you're working with some other agents, they may not have like a planning mode, but what you can do is just tell it like, hey, no coding right now, just make a plan, and that'll help. Definitely like challenge assumptions, ask it questions, and just verify that what it's about to do is what you want it to do. Okay, so yeah,
Just
yeah.
Steven, to explain, if you want, for example, to change one line or something like that, how you can ask for the coding agent? You tell, could you change this sentence or something like that? Or
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I use WebStorm or IntelliJ a lot, and VS Code has like these integrations. So they'll have like they'll have plugins. There's a lot of, if it's a cursor plugin, something like that. So how I do it, let me not do I'm not gonna do it on this project. Let me open up here. So so I'm gonna start a session here. And if I see it says all these lines are selected, so I can just tell it this, like I tell it great news. Let's see if it understands what I mean. So it knows I've selected this line, right? So it sees that I'm telling it great news. Like, yes, it's like, what do you mean? Change it to great news. And
okay,
I spelled great wrong. That doesn't really matter. Is this what you're asking?
yes. So you select the what you want to change, and you understand.
Yeah, and it did exactly what I said. Didn't even correct my typo.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of go back and forth. Like, so when I want to do something specific with a document or with some code, I'll pull it up in WebStorm and do it this way. So, yeah, so I can keep this session right here and we can pull it out when we need it. Okay, so let's go back over the agent. Okay, so comprehensive company info. I don't think we need any of that stuff.
Aya told us that he would expect it to be smart enough to find a synonym between excellent and great. Ask
Uh,
you if you meant great for the typo
yeah,
mistake.
uh, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good representation of like where we are at with these things. Like we need to constantly check it. You can't trust it. You gotta verify everything. So it's I think our jobs are definitely safe for the meantime. We still have a purpose. All right, so yeah, I was right. Um, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we don't need that. So right, and that's because I looked through the endpoints and I I have an understanding of what the API can provide, so I was able to correct it there. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna say, give me some UI options in ASCII wireframes. 3 options. And right, I mean, so maybe this is something you can do at the refactor stage. Maybe you want to just focus on the functionality. I'm just going to do it right now, just to kind of show that. I think this is a very powerful thing to do because it's not going to create any code. It's just text, right? So, and now I can see kind of what it's going to look like, right? So we have a logo, search, and a search button, and that looks pretty good. We have this one with a go, okay, not as good. Right, and it's just go with what makes more sense. I think I like option one, and it also recommended option one. So now I'm gonna go in the TDD mode. So if I push slash here, it opens up all my commands. One great command to have is a command to make commands. If that's the first command that you have, definitely do that, and then you can just get Claude to make you commands. Gemini has commands, Cursor has commands, and what these are, they're just prompts. They're just prompts that you pull in when you have a repeatable process that you do all the time. You might just want to create a prompt for it. So we're gonna look at the TDD thing first. Oh yeah, okay. So let's look at our context before we do that. That's a good reminder. All right, so let me get rid of this. Okay, so I have this status line. I think that's very useful as well. If you don't have this status line in Claude Code, um, it's really just usually blank, and it's kind of scary. Like I don't know how much context I've used. This one isn't perfect though, so I am gonna just pull up the context. This one says I've used 36. I've actually used 82. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the knowledge out of this. So I'm going to say save the plan to docs plans as an MD file. Okay, so your plan's ready. You check your context window. I was at about 40%. And I'm thinking, okay, like once I get it to do all this stuff, how much context am I gonna have left? I'd rather like get all the knowledge it just got, throw it into a markdown file, and then bring that in later. So this is like the choice that you have is should I extract this knowledge, save it to a file, and continue with a new session, or am I okay just to continue with the same session? And there are trade-offs, like in all engineering, and that you may lose some details extracting to a plan. So this is like another this is another thing I probably have to check line by line and make sure I did it right. But I think we've been going for, I've been doing the coding part maybe for 20 or 30 minutes, and I haven't had it, it hasn't even written any code yet, right? So this is just how much planning and back and forth I do with it. And the coding part, goes by in a breeze, but we want to make sure that we're aligned in what we're doing. All right, and then we'll come back to predictive TDD. Let's see. Oh, it didn't. Okay, right. And so like it didn't even I told it to save it. Okay, so it saved it, but then it started like doing all the work. So I guess I could get rid of those files. Yeah, let me get rid of those files. All right, so that should have been specific to like only create a plan and like stop. Okay, so yeah, let's just delete all this stuff. And okay, so we've got our plan here. Right, and again, this is another thing that I'm going to review. Okay, the scenarios here. So I'm just kind of skimming here. It looks like all the things we talked about generally, and I think it kind of gets it, and it's got the ASCII art. So all the important details, it's now in this. And so I can say, just wrote a plan. Right, so I'll just do a commit to that file, and now I'm going to start up a whole new session. So I'll clear it,
Okay,
and now I'm back
so
down to zero. Yeah, what's
just
up?
to understand, all the time you ask the question to clear the window, the prompt windows, so you extract it in the .md file, and after you commit all .md file in your repository or not?
Yeah, so those are kind of temporary. So like what I'll do with my team is so I always create like a task list or something. So part of my task list is to delete and clean up the documents. So I mean some of them, if they're more like architectural decisions, I think those are good to keep around. But if it's kind of like a little temporary planning document, yeah, I would just commit it and then get rid of it. I'm doing kind of like pull requests, working on short-lived feature branches, and so before I'm merging into main, I'm getting rid of those documents.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna say read the plan. I think it's called like story, and let's do this.
You have a little question of Ravi. Can you share your experience on the thought process of prompt guideline stories and iterative effort challenges in refining them?
Okay, let me look at that. The thought process of prompts, any iterative effort, challenges, and refining them. Yeah, I think it's kind of an experimental kind of practice. Let me start this. All right, so I ran my TD command here, and then we'll talk about that. Yeah, so I definitely like right. I mean, there you could write the prompt on your own. Um, that's one way. You could get coding agent to write it for you, and then you can see how it's working for you. Try to get it more concise, try to remove some things, and it's kind of just testing. It's just like experimenting with what works, measuring it. Was it better, worse? It's also like a lot of non-determinism you're dealing with. So some days it's gonna work, some days it won't. So it will take a lot of experiments to really validate that. So that's what I would say. Yeah, I'll go through some of these other questions. Claude is very good with mermaid. I don't know what this is. Z. Yeah, I used to do a lot of mermaid diagrams, and then I saw that the ASCII art looks a lot better and easier to work with, so I've been doing that. Okay. Um, so let's talk about this TD thing. So still haven't written any code, and I want to stop in about 40 minutes. So we'll see how far we get here. Okay, so predictive TDD. So this is the whole prompt, the custom slash command that I run after I've kind of planned and organized the thinking on what direction we're heading. And I tell it, hey, here's how you do TDD, and more specifically, predictive TDD. So it's going to make a test list. So it's going to create some comments of some test names, and it's going to present it to me. And that's like it's like another iteration of planning. It's another opportunity for me to make sure that what I've told it to do is what I want it to do. So I'm slowing it down again. I'm saying, all right, let's dive a little bit deeper into the behavior that we're expecting to introduce. Are we aligned on that? Right. And so it's going to do one test at a time. And real powerful part is that it's going to predict whether the test passes or fails. And I think that's really powerful because it's going to challenge its assumptions. So I had this one scenario where I was working on this UI and it said, oh, yeah, the test is going to fail because of this. And then the test passed. And it was like, wait, what? And it totally slowed down, checked itself, and it ended up that it kind of introduced this little UI bug in the previous thing that we had just added. But I saw it like real time. I had my monitor over here with the UI, and I said, "Oh, that looks like a bug." And I was like, "But looks like it's gonna catch it." Like, and it ended up. I didn't have to stop it. It corrected itself, and because its assumptions was wrong. So I think that's a very powerful part of this process because it tries to make it fail for the right reasons. Something we talk about when we do test-driven development is we want to make sure that we're adding like a valid next increment. And then it's going to write the minimal code to pass. Doesn't always follow that, so you still got to check it on that. And then, yeah, I think those kind of important parts there. What else?
You have a
Um,
question from Aya.
yeah,
It annoys me a little when it checks itself and it say, "You're right. I should do
mhm.
X, Y, Z," and I wonder why that wasn't happening at the first iteration already.
Yeah, I think that's just missing context. I don't think we should expect these things to be perfect. And I think like when we're pairing with humans, like we make assumptions, we have different viewpoints. I'm not saying that pairing with a coding agent is like pairing with a human, but I do kind of make that comparison in a way. But yeah, I would give it some grace and just kind of work with it. Okay, yeah, loops. Okay, yeah, definitely. Okay, so all right, so yeah, some of the stuff is just kind of like my own, like I'm probably gonna say a lot of these words like, hey, let's not mock, let's do more acceptance tests and I'll kind of like unit tests for pure functions that are complex uh calculations and logic, things like that. But that's not built into the command. That's something I should definitely try to add because I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over. Um, so let's actually do the command fully, and then we'll kind of talk about like what a little bit more about what it makes effective. Okay, so it's usually like pretty slow, and it's like, okay, I know how to do TDD. Okay, should I start? It's always like asking permission because the command is set up that way. And a huge shout out to Llewellyn and Falco. That's who I got this command from. I got it from Lotta Kessler, who got it from Llewellyn Falco. And I've just had a huge success with it. Um, okay, so just correcting it again. I kind of I just want some high level acceptance tests, and right, and it doesn't really know that, so that's valid. All right, so we have valid ticker symbol shows stock with that and that. Okay. Invalid with no results. Search results display this. So like these three, yeah, like all of these I would probably do in one test. Yeah, so all of AC3. Right, so this is just me just trying to get what I want out of this. And you may have different opinions on this, but this is kind of the way that I'm working right now. So let me say, yes, let's actually finally do this. Okay, so while that's running, let's talk about what makes this prompt effective. So saw that it writes test comments, so I can course correct early, just like we did with planning. Um, I can figure out what assumptions it's making. I find myself always like trying to tell it to focus more on behaviors. Um, yeah, and yeah, forces it to think. Um, yeah, so it should write one test at a time. Sometimes it doesn't. Um, and I mean, again, just give it some grace. If you just want to, with all these agents, you should just be able to kind of escape and interrupt it. And so it's usually a good idea to keep an eye on it. So let's go back, kind of read through it. So, all right, so it's installing mock web server. It's using the actual base URL. Um, so like sometimes I might have that as an environment variable, but I think for the sake of this, I'm just gonna leave that alone. But I'm just kind of looking, see like if this makes sense to me. Like I don't like the AC1s in there. That's a small edit I would do myself. Um, okay, so it's going to the text box. It's um, okay, it's getting the input. It's typing in, clicking the button, and then seeing that that's there. So it's prediction that it would fail. Okay, yeah, it should fail because it's hello world. Right, and it's missing a dependency, so it's fixing that stuff up. And then it should still fail because that's not there. And now it actually needs to build the types and go to client. And now it has all this stuff in the app. So definitely don't like that all this stuff is just in the app right now. So that's one thing I like, all right, let's extract some components, maybe some custom hooks. And okay, so it's done two tests. I'm gonna stop there and let me pull up another session and I'm going to just commit. Before I commit, let me actually test that this works. So it should have a no results found and just like a valid ticker. So, okay. So if I do Apple, okay, that looks really bad. Should at least have some kind of info. So it doesn't have that. If I do like ABC or trying to get something that actually doesn't exist. Okay, that definitely doesn't exist. Okay, so pretty much works. Definitely, and so that's when I would kind of like make some notes on what needs to be improved. And okay, it looks like that's the next thing I was gonna do. But like I wanna stop it. And so sometimes I'll say like write one test at a time. And because I do want to like review the code as well. So I might like look and I kind of already reviewed the code. And I think one of my main gripes is that all that's in the app there. But what I do have in this project is I have pretty strict lending rules set up. And that is how I kind of force the refactoring part. So it has some tests now and now it can refactor. And so some things that I have here is that like in files, there should be no more than 150 lines. In functions, there should be no more than 25 lines. Some things about complexity, and then some other kind of like TypeScript specific things. And so I've set this up in other projects like Python, Java. We should use these deterministic tools, like all these lending libraries that we have, to like enforce these kind of things. Another cool library in TypeScript. This one's for duplication. So basically, it'll look through the code and make sure that there's no more than 5% duplication. Um, why 5%? I don't know. That's just kind of what I chose. And you can kind of tweak it as you want, but that's a good way to also force it to do that. And how does all this happen is that I have these Git hooks set up. So whenever I commit, it's going to run formatting. It's going to do all those lints. It's going to try to fix the ones that it can auto fix. And because I'm going to make the agent commit, it's going to fix those errors as it sees it. And it's going to do the duplication and it's going to just build it. And that'll be like the TypeScript errors and stuff like that. So over here, let me, so I've seen that it works.
I have a
So,
question, Steven,
hey,
because it changed drastically the way we work. So, if you see something wrong on the generated file, do you ask for the coding agents to change it, or do you change directly?
yeah. Yeah, so I'd say like around summertime, I was doing a lot of like, I go to the IDE, I'm gonna refactor it myself.
Yeah.
These days I'm doing a lot of like, you refactor it. Like I'm pushing more and more to the agent. And I'm just kind of like, I'm reviewing code in these little segments. I'm always trying to like on a bigger task and things like that. I wanna understand what it's doing and constantly like reading what it's doing. And yeah, so yeah, these days I'm getting the agent to refactor it. If there are like no tests or anything, um, I definitely would want some tests in there. Uh, the agent doesn't refactor as well as some of these more powerful IDEs do. So yeah, I'd say it's up to you. I would probably recommend continue with your same flow, get it to create some code, refactor yourself, but try experimenting with pushing more onto the agent and see how you like it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We have some questions in the chat. Let me see. No, I think it's okay.
Okay, cool. I got some cool TDD discussions going on. Um, okay, yeah. So we talked about Git hooks and strict linting. So let's see, what does that look like? All right, so I've told the agent to commit up here. Okay, let me commit. And this is like a fresh new agent, right? So what I'm doing is I'm not polluting the context over here. So I'm starting a whole new session and I'm just saying, hey, commit the code. And it thinks, oh yeah, that's easy. Let me just commit the code. And what I've done is I've told it to always run npm install, because when it runs npm install, it's going to call Husky, which makes sure that the hooks are set up. So the first thing that hits is, oh, there's formatting issues. Let me fix that. Oh, there's linting errors. Okay, let me fix that. So it's extracting some functions. Okay, I think I like that. And it's doing some of these other like TypeScript rules and all that. And yeah, and so like, right, I would like go through this and okay, this is the handler. Okay. Right. And right, still the app is like doing a lot, which I don't like, and I would probably tell it to do. I think I'll do that after this one. But yeah, this is generally a process. So finally it got through all the errors. It didn't really have to know the context because it's just like, oh, okay, there's an error here. Let me figure out what this code or like how I can refactor this or make it to pass the error. One thing I've had to do is I don't think I have this set up here, but they're sneaky. They'll like turn off the rules, right? So if I go over to the ESLint, I had one project, the side project I was working on, and I realized that it had turned off all these rules, right? Like, I mean, yeah, and I think it's done it on some other things, right? Like, so, like, I think I put these here for a reason. So let me actually turn them on. And these ones are for test. I explicitly turn this off. So, but yeah, I've seen it like delete rules and well, so what I'll put is in a Claude MD in a ground rule, I'll say, hey, do not touch the linting rules unless approved by a human. So that's what I'll do. And that I've had some good uh, success with that. So I'm going to clear it again and commit again because I just changed that linting and maybe some new rules pop up. But yeah, that's generally how I do that.
Just to have before coding agents, we have also a linter and some gate like this. So what the change is that now coding agents fix it for you, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you get it. Like if I get it to commit, it sees the errors, it fixes itself. Um, and right, I mean, some of the things you're missing here is like, well, are the tests still passing, right? I mean, it didn't run the test, right? That's an important part of refactoring. That is in the pre-push, I have it run the test. Um, and sometimes I'll come in and run the test myself as well. So then once it's done with that, I'll tell it to push. See, yeah, see, it's doing. See, it's already turned it off. All right, well, we'll let it do it this time just to keep it moving. But like I said, it would return things off. So I don't have that set up in my Claude. But what I would say is like, don't turn these off unless I tell you to. And so I can do Control O to actually see like what this error was. It's not showing me that one. But yeah, well, we'll let it get away with it this time. But that's something to look out for if you do something similar like this. Okay, so then it comes to like the final agent and human review. And so I've already been kind of like manually testing. Let me have this continue. I'll just say continue, and we'll at least try to finish this three acceptance criterias. Yeah, so been manually testing as we go. Um, right, like I saw some things that I didn't like. I mean, we had that like UI didn't actually do that. So I keep note of those things. Usually I'll have some kind of task list where I'll kind of jot down all those as well. Um, and what we can do is also get the agent to review. So like I bet if we got the agent to review its own code, it would say, hey, this app, like this has used state and like there's a lot going on in this app. I mean, it's only 48 lines, but generally an app should just, yeah, I mean, this should be like a component. So I want to see if it catches that. So we'll have to probably, well, no, I can review it while this is going. I think it's about to be done. So I have a review command. I used to have a different one. Yeah, I think this is the command.
You have a question from Aya. I think I miss it, but who writes the business code in TDD steps, the agent or the human?
For me, I'm having the agent write everything. One thing that I do usually when I'm on a fresh new project is I'll actually go in and like refactor um, test. So like there are some things that I don't really like about this test. Like for instance, like where does Apple come from? Like like how do we know that? There's a handler it's being stubbed somewhere, but I can't see it. So I would want to like bring those things in. So I'm still trying to figure out what's the balance, right? But yeah, when I do want to refactor something, I'll do it on my own. Um, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes. If agents write everything, would be all wrong. Like, how could we know if the business requirement to be tested was correct?
That's is constant review. You review, you work with it how will we know if the business requirement? Well, that's all the planning that we did up front, all the planning we did, the test comments that I wrote. Like I read all of these and I was like, okay, this is a valid scenario. And I read through these tests and I said, okay, if I search for invalid, no results found. So it's really just constant review. Um, yeah. So it's really all about trust. I've been working with these for like 7 months, and I was very low trust in April, and I'm very pretty high trust now. I mean, not 100%. Like nobody should be trusting these things completely because they're going to make mistakes, and that's why you have to just constantly review it. It's just a totally different way of programming. It's we're more like uh, product managers and agent managers now. But we're trying to instill the business rules into the agents to get them to create the code.
And you stay accountable, yeah.
What is that?
We stay accountable of the generated code, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So anything that I deploy, I can't blame a coding agent for that. It has it's my reputation on the line. So I want to review every line of code, make sure that I understand it. And I do find that refactoring, I mean, I love like working with legacy code and like refactoring it. So sometimes if I don't feel like I understand what the agent's done, I think just kind of refactoring it on your own is a good way. But you definitely want to understand what's happening. And so the slower you can make this process, I think the more quality that you can bake into it early. Um, Review. I don't miss too much. So I'm not gonna like review its own
Just
code now.
Steven, you say that you said that you trust from for example Claude or some models, but when we have a new update of Claude, what happened for you? You need to maybe test the new version before trust in it, or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so like I started on Claude when it was Sonnet 3.7, and and then about a month later, Sonnet and Opus came out, and I was using primarily Opus. Um, so I was on like a company account, and like I didn't have to pay for it. Opus is very expensive. It's almost I think 5 times more expensive, maybe even more. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think it's about feel, and it's like, I mean, so some when we joke around, like, I mean, sometimes Claude has bad days or something. We're just like, what's wrong with Claude today? Like, it's so, yeah, yeah, I would never like fully trust it, but I trust it more than I used to, and I think I trust it because I built a workflow and a process that I trust, and that I can get quick feedback from it. And so that really helps. Um, what I've done with this review is um, it's saying some of the code quality issues and things like that. I'm gonna skip this part. I want to show y'all one more thing. Um, so before I disable this MCP, this is the playwright MCP. And so basically what it basically gives Claude eyes or any coding agent that you want to use. MCP is available on all coding agents, as far as I know, at least the main ones. So I have a few commands in here. I have exploratory testing. So that's going to use it to like do like a lot of different testing and edge cases. We don't have that much functionality right now. So I'm going to do a little bit more basic. And I'm just say test the feature, and I'm going to give it the URL, and we'll see what that does. Nice. So I'm just going to say test the feature. I give it the URL where the page is running. And right, it's pretty simple there. All right, so I'm gonna split this over here, and I'm gonna show you what this command actually looks like, so you can see what's gone into this. All right, so test feature. All right, so you can see that it is just typing, right? So it is typing text, it's clicking buttons, and it's doing all that in a Chrome browser. And it's making notes. It's going to be generating a report. And okay, so yeah, ask for the URL, but I just gave it. Test the happy path. So if I just did a feature kind of at the end or maybe the middle, I might just have Claude test it itself instead of me doing it. I don't do it all the time, but definitely if I see like some weird behavior and I'm trying to like convince it, like, hey, there's a bug here, and Claude doesn't believe me, and I'm like, oh, go see for yourself. And then it goes in here and it's like, oh, there's a bug here, right? So, and so it won't actually change any code here. it will just generate a report. It will say all of the issues that occurred and all that. So that's a Playwright MCP. There's also a Google Chrome MCP that I've heard is even better. I just haven't switched over yet. Um, right, and so we did a review, and then always like your final stamp of approval. Make sure you understand the code that you're shipping. Make sure you understand what has been done. So it's some QR codes. I'll
Oh,
probably throw some links in the chat as well. Um, but yeah, so I'm working with software teams. If you want to book a call and see how I can help your team, let me know. I'm focusing primarily on helping teams work more effectively with coding agents. I'm active on LinkedIn, reach out. And over here is what I showed you before, my dot files with a lot of my Claude commands. And I'm always like updating and changing them. What time are we at? I think kind of at my time box.
yeah. Maybe if I can.
Let me, one final thing. Let me show
Yeah.
the report that it generated, and then we can move on to some Q&A, just discussion. All right, so yeah, when I run this test feature, it generates a report here. Here are some features that aren't working. Enter key doesn't submit the search. So these are maybe some things that I could point another agent at this and tell it to fix it. That's mostly something I'll do. And it also took a bunch of screenshots here that ended up in this Playwright MCP folder right here. See if it shows. Yeah, okay. All right, so I just took a bunch of screenshots. Yeah,
Okay. Very powerful.
yeah. So it gives it eyes. It's pretty cool.
Uh, okay, now you can enable your mic if you want. Right, I'm soon. If people, do you have some question for Steven? I think you can unmute your mic if you.
I have a couple questions for Steven. Actually, yeah. One thing, so Steve, yeah, it's a very good presentation. First question, are you familiar? There is a person, Roof Cohen. He is they start an Agentics Foundation, so they been doing this for like year, for 2 years probably. I've been in the meetings. So they do very similar things, what they do. And one thing I'm not sure you're familiar, like that's what they started on doing. So the original methodology is super similar to yours, but I follow it. There is one extra step is that you ask the coding agent to write pseudocode first before actually writing code, and then it will generate the code from pseudocode because it's much easier to review, like when you review in pseudocode. And one thing they're doing right now, they're training very small models that can actually take the pseudocode and output the TypeScript. So that's all that model can do, just like take pseudocode and output like either they do it specifically for Rust, for TypeScript, for Python, and those models they can just output like thousands of lines a second. Are you familiar with any of those like developments?
No, I'm not. Could you put that
I
in the
can put
chat
the
so
yeah.
everybody could benefit
They
from
run a
that?
meeting. It's open. Anybody can join. I can put the things. Okay, I think this is the one. It's every Friday, like at noonday, like Toronto time. So if you just follow them, it's
Yeah, I'm always looking for some communities can
yeah.
do some of this
Yeah.
stuff.
And
Thanks,
another
thanks for
trick
that.
they've been doing recently because they got because um they run, so at least like they like crazy, they run, the agents runs for days basically. So I try to follow them. My record is 6 hours of autonomous coding. It just Claude was sitting there running tests, like doing things, and
Yeah.
it actually came up with finished product. So I was gonna say like yeah, so they run like you know what? I kind of derailed myself. I was concerned.
No, thanks for sharing. No, I'll definitely check it
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah. So now I
Yeah,
remember. Okay. Yeah, because these agents, so when you have these huge PRD documents, they get lost in them. So what they actually do is they use GitHub issues to keep track of the things like so. And if you
right.
and there is a GitHub MCP, so what they do, like once it's finished like a feature, it just checks it off and it never it never puts them in a context. Like so you can't touch it.
Yeah,
I think there is a trick.
right. Yeah,
That's the trick to the whole thing is I think it's the new science right now. It's called context engineering, basically, right? Is how you keep context very small and relevant, like, and that's what.
yeah. I have a few thoughts on that. So one, I would, I mean, I know this isn't like you doing this, but like I would kind of advise them to not use GitHub MCP. Actually, I would actually use CLI. Just
I don't
use
know.
the
Actually, they
GB.
do use CLI. I mean, that's the
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
because
but
like I
generally you
showed in the
don't.
beginning, the
Uh-huh.
MCP takes so much context away.
Yeah,
And the context window is one of the most important parts of the
yeah,
coding agent that you always want to make sure that it doesn't get bloated.
yeah, exactly.
And then I
But
want to share another link here. This is if you haven't heard of Steve Yegi, he used to work at like Google and some other um
uh-huh. So
like
the
some of those Spain companies and stuff. And
uh-huh.
he recently wrote a book about it's called Vibe Coding.
Uh-huh.
I'm still making my way through it. It's a great book. But he has this thing called beads, and
Uh-huh.
it's pretty early on, but what it's trying to solve is when you're extracting, like remember how I had a
Mhm.
plan and then I was like, oh, I think my context is kind of too
Mhm.
much. So I wrote it to a file. And so beads is
Mhm.
kind of like a task manager for your agent. And so
Mhm.
you just kind of like and it stores it in like a local like JSON
Yeah,
file and all that. And so yeah, so
yeah. I
a
seen
lot
that.
of yeah, so I've been experimenting with that and finding
Yeah.
it very useful.
So mine method's pretty simple, works well. So I ask it to write implementation plan, so with a bunch of phases. It's very similar to yours. And then it just goes because what Claude Code is good, it's good at looking at the individual pieces of like files. It doesn't need to read the entire file. And you need to structure all your guidelines and everything hierarchically. So first there is a table of context and executive summary, and then it can just jump in into these specific ones. And there is a new book came out. I just got it. It was pretty interesting. It's Adi Osmani. It's the Beyond Vibe Coding. Like that's
Yeah, that's on my list. I think that's the next one I'm gonna read. It seems very, very good.
yeah,
So I put in the link here, this Amazon link that was
yeah.
that's vibe
Um,
coding book.
yeah. So Adi Osmani book. It's you won't find it super useful because it's pretty much what you just said. Like so that's
Yeah, but
so you
I'm
would know
like
like
totally
everything.
it doesn't even matter. I'm gonna read it because I'm
Yeah,
like
you can
totally
read
into
it, but
this and
I mean, yeah, it
like,
would
you know,
be
even if
read for you.
yeah, it's like even if I can pull out like a nugget of wisdom
Yeah,
would be worth the read for me.
but
So
it's.
yeah.
Mhm.
It just Steven, if you can summarize, because the main subject of the meetup is software crafter principle in the for coding agents. So
Yeah.
just to summarize, what is the difference between AI agents without software craftsmanship principle and what we have seen today? Could you
Yeah.
summarize?
Yeah. Probably didn't make that connection good enough, but like some of the principles in craftsmanship, software craftsmanship, one is well-crafted software. We not just want to make working code. We want it to be well crafted so that we can move at a sustainable pace. Um, Productive partnerships. And that makes me think of kind of like the product-minded engineer as well. Um, and also kind of have productive partnerships with the coding agent as well, and just kind of like with our teams and exploring um, all that kind of stuff. And continuous learning. I think we have to do a lot of learning, even more than we used to, because the AI landscape is changing every day. There's a new tool, new process, and you have to figure out what is useful, what is just smoke, and not really gonna change much. Steadily adding value is another principle from software craftsmanship. We want to be incrementally adding value. And so it's a lot of the kind of small batches that I was talking about, breaking things down, the small tasks, and community of professionals, much like yourselves. You're here, you know, out of work hours, putting in extra learning, talking with people about um, probably things that you enjoy very much because you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. And, it's about that, like sharing knowledge with each other. And so, I mean, that's the big summary here is I wanted to share what I've been doing in this space and what I found effective. And let's, keep the conversation going. Definitely hit me up and if you ever want to meet up and talk about this stuff, let me know.
Yes, I know you have some coach activity for coaching some teams to, for example, integrate AI agents in a team. What is your thought about for in a team for some co-workers? Uh, it's so easy to ask to the AI agent instead of his colleague, for example. Do you have some tips in a team to keep the team spirit,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we still need to be very collaborative. We need to be sharing knowledge across the team. And that's why I continue to pair. I think pairing is kind of like, so I work at a consultancy where we pair exclusively. We go on to engagements as pairs and we pair a lot. But there's been a lot of questions on like, what does pairing look like with coding agents? I mean, am I just like watching my pair like talk to an agent? Like, what's that look like, right? And so I still find it effective, but sometimes we strategically split off and come back together, things like that. Um, but as far as like, okay, asking a coding agent rather than a teammate. I think with like the little things, yeah, just ask the coding agent. But when it's really about the kind of like architectural or like decisions made in the past, and when you're really like designing together, I think a coding agent can be an extra collaborator in that. But I think it we need to still be team focused and rely on each other. And yeah.
And the last question for me, we can provide some guidelines to AI agents. For example, our first meetup is about a tool to centralize all knowledge and create some all agents file for Claude and other. It's PacMine. But what is your thought about for junior, for example? The final review is so important to review the code generated by the AI. How junior can keep learning and evaluate the code generated by AI agents?
Okay, so sorry, how can we what?
I think the final step for the review, the file
Hmm.
generated by the AI agent,
Yeah.
um, you need to have some knowledge in order to validate the file. Do you have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
advice for the junior, for example? Maybe your
yeah,
advice is to pair with a senior, for example.
yeah, definitely that. But the first thing that entered my mind was um practice the fundamentals, practice the things that haven't changed for like 50 years. Um, that being like architectural patterns, design patterns, um, code smells, refactoring, like practice those things and understand what does like good code look like? Like what is good design? Like if you don't have those kind of smells, those indicators, and like this doesn't quite look right, you're always gonna just buy into whatever the code agent tells you. And that's not the kind of collaborative relationship that I think is going to lead you down an effective path. So practice. Yeah, I've been saying it for years that developers need to practice more, and I don't think that changes with coding agents. I mean, one thing I've been practicing a lot over this past year is just reading code. Like we just read a bunch of code now, because if I'm working with coding agents, they're going to produce a lot of code, and so any of those code reviewed skills, you need a lot of practice with that.
This is the message here. It's even if the code, the AI agent generate all the code, you need to stay up to date and accountable to be able to validate the final work. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can also you can lean on the coding agent in some things to like kind of teach you, like to kind of to like tell it to slow down, like whenever like accomplishing a goal, like can you just like teach me these things? And it pulls from its vast knowledge. But the risk in that is that it could be wrong. You need to make sure what sources it's pulling from. And, maybe that's like a combination of working with a coding agent and working with a more senior developer that knows this stuff, and is able to kind of shine some light on those things. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
AI agent should be just a tool to go faster and be more productive, but you need to know what we all principle of software craftsmanship
right.
to be able to build sustainable and maintainable software.
I would add to the Steve's comment. One thing for junior people to read about is books about quality. Like, so I mean, there is a clean code, and just generally, so there is an old like MIT from 1950. So it's exactly that stuff is like even more than 50 years old. It's
Yeah,
what is high quality mean in general, like not even the code, but of like anything, right? And it's, I mean, one thing is how easy it is to change, like is it repeatable, like all these things, like, so I would, like, if you just starting up, I would do it. And one thing I do, actually, I don't read much code anymore, but I'm super careful reading the tests that are being generated. So I'm looking, and also like it's good to understand what metrics in software, like that's also probably 40 years old, like complexity metrics and the coverage and stuff. So you just watch the gauges and numbers of the generated code, and based on that, I mean, usually, I mean, the last 6 months I haven't had, because we push like per person, we pushed about between 2 to 10,000 lines of code a day. Like I don't think it like, and this a production
yeah,
quality code they just being deployed. It's because the productivity gains they just insane. They're like 100 times
yeah.
faster.
So Vlad, you're using coding agents and production code?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we do it
Yeah.
like a kind of follow ropes, like so you can build hierarchical systems when you get a mastermind agent that actually drives a bunch of Claude codes, like.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
way is like, so some of them test, some work on the UI, some like kind of like do the things, but
Just
once
that
you get it going, it's just insane, like, and it's
maybe yeah, you can open your mic, sorry. Yeah, you can unmute your mic, Aya, no?
Yes, sorry. I have a question. We have a problem of slow code reviews, and we're thinking like, how could we leverage AI agents for code reviews? Where do you see the opportunity to have that happening without missing on quality or business requirements?
yeah. So I've seen like Code Rabbit is one product that's out there that maybe your team could look at adopting. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good at surfacing some things. But again, like it has to be a collaboration, right? It can't be like full on agent code review. Humans also need to understand the intent behind it, the problem that was being solved, manually testing it, making sure that it checks all the boxes. So I think it can be an enhancement to your code review process. Yeah, there's a bunch of products out there already that I think are more effective than just pointing one of these agents at a code review. That's been my experience. I mean, these code review agents, like CodeRabbit, are like specifically geared towards doing only that, and that's why they're more effective.
Okay, so you advise on using the tool like Code Review Rabbits over creating our own code agents over to our PRs.
I mean, I would experiment with it and
Okay.
try it, see what works
Okay.
for you. I'm
Nice.
not telling you to definitely go that way, but I'm just
Okay.
saying in my experience, I've kind of pinned those two things. Like I've seen a coding agent designed by a company that's geared towards reviewing PRs, and I've put that up against pointing my Claude code at a PR, and I've seen better results. But don't take my word for it. Do your own testing, experimentation. But like
So,
building your own agent is a big undertaking as somebody that builds coding agents every day. Not coding agents, but like agents to like do business capabilities. So I would probably I don't know what your expertise is in that or your teams, but it is a challenging work indeed.
thank you. I have a follow-up on this too.
Yeah.
Like during the code review process, and I know you might have done many of which parts do you think are worth our time as like with human checks? Like, do you feel like if you're going to create a flow chart, now you have the agent, now they have the code reviewer, and you have the author. How are you going to flow chart this process?
Um, I'm hearing like two questions. Maybe I'll answer the first one and just like, what would I focus on? I would focus on like, how can we get a good architecture in place that makes it easier for humans and coding agents to work in? Because I've seen that if you spend more time on having a good architecture, like maybe ports and adapters, clean architecture, things like that, good separation of concerns, trying to reduce code duplication where it makes sense. Those kind of things I would prioritize because I think it leads to sustainable products. Um, I'm not really sure about the other part of that question you were saying about the flow chart. And do you mean like when does the human come in and when does the agent? How do you decide what to actually look? That's yeah, I mean there's some comments that come back from those code review tools or something that I don't really agree with. I'm like, nope, it's okay. Like it's not worth my time. Right. And that comes from experience, I think, in that like you're like, that's not something we want to do right now. So it's always challenging and like you don't have to say yes to it. It's advice, right? It's advice. So don't blindly go and do what it's because sometimes it has bad advice and it's not really what you should be doing. So I think a big theme of the night here is to always review line by line, always challenge and understand what's going on so that you can make better decisions and leads to your coding agent to make better decisions.
Yes.
Yes, agree with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so the meetup finished in 1 minute. So thank you. Just a little message. We have seen that AI agents will be great, but don't fall in the trap. Keep a moment or slot in your team to learn and share. And I know that Steven shares some content about learning hours to have some slot on your team to be up to date and to have some sharing moments. And I think the message is in order to be able to validate what AI agents generate, you need to stay up to date and don't delegate always for the AI agent. So Thank you so much, Steven. I will share on our YouTube channel the video and all the link that you have shared in the chat. And if you have some question, you can ask some question to Steve directly in LinkedIn, for example. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.